For 8 long months, I lived in darkness. Not the poetic kind, the real kind, the kind where you count footsteps instead of faces, where voices replace expressions, and where silence tells you more than words ever could. Doctors said the complications from my eye surgery might be permanent. No promises, no timelines, just a polite shrug and a pamphlet about adjusting. Then one random Tuesday morning, I woke up and could see, clear as day, the sunlight cutting through the curtains, the dust floating in the air, the faint crack in the ceiling I'd forgotten about. I should have screamed. I should have cried. I should have called my husband, Harold, who'd spent months cooking, cleaning, guiding me through our own home like a saint. But I didn't, because something felt off. See, blindness doesn't just take your sight, it sharpens everything else. Tone, timing, intent. And over those 8 months, I noticed small shifts, tiny cracks in the way my family spoke when they thought I couldn't see their faces, especially my daughter-in-law, Melissa. So instead of celebrating, I made a decision that would change everything. I kept pretending. 3 weeks passed, 3 weeks of seeing everything while letting everyone believe I was still blind. And what I saw during those weeks, let's just say it made my stomach turn. That afternoon, I was sitting in my favorite armchair, eyes half closed, breathing slow, my I'm napping pose. Harold was at the grocery store, our son David was at work, just me and Melissa, or so she thought. I watched her from beneath my lashes as she opened my jewelry box like it belonged to her. No hesitation, no guilt. She lifted my grandmother's pearl necklace, held it up to the light, and smiled. "These would look way better on someone younger," she muttered. Then she put them on. My heart was pounding so hard I thought she'd hear it, but I stayed still, silent, invisible. This wasn't even the first time. The week before, she'd been in Harold's study, organizing. The week before that, she was measuring the living room windows and saying things like, "When we redo this." Not if, when, like the house was already hers. The front door opened downstairs. Harold was back. Melissa froze, then quickly removed the necklace and dropped it back into the box, crooked, careless. She smoothed her hair, slapped on that fake sweet smile, and called out, "Leona, you awake, dear?" I stirred just enough to sell the act. "Melissa, is that you?" She rushed over, all concern and sugar. "Yes, sweetheart, I was just checking on you." Harold stepped in, grocery bags in hand, exhaustion written all over him. Even seeing him again after months of darkness broke my heart. He looked older, tired, worn down. "How is she?" Melissa asked, like I wasn't even there. "Oh, she's been confused today, one of her bad days." Confused. I clenched my fists under the blanket. That word again. As Harold helped me to bed that late night, his hands were shaking. "Harold," I asked quietly, "do you think I'm losing my mind?" The pause before his answer hurt more than any lie. That's when I knew. Someone was planting seeds, and I had just opened my eyes in time to see it happening. I thought pretending to be blind would protect me. I didn't realize it would expose a plan so twisted it could destroy my family from the inside. And Melissa? She was just getting started. The next morning, I kept my eyes shut longer than usual. Not because I was tired, because I was listening. Blindness teaches you patience. It teaches you how to disappear in plain sight. And that morning, disappearance was exactly what I needed. I heard Melissa's voice first, low, controlled, the kind people use when they think secrets are safe. "She's getting worse, David." I recognized my son's footsteps immediately. He had that uneven pace when he was stressed, like his mind ran faster than his body. She couldn't find her medication yesterday, Melissa continued, and this morning she kept asking where she was. That was a lie, a clean one, a confident one. My chest tightened, but I didn't move. Mom's always been sharp, David said, unsure. The blindness doesn't mean what? Melissa cut in. That she's not a burden? Burden. That word hit harder than blindness ever did. David, your dad is exhausted. This house is huge, dangerous. Someone in your condition shouldn't be here. Someone in my condition. There are really nice places, she added softly, facilities that specialize in this. Facilities. I curled my fingers into the blanket to keep from shaking. They were talking about putting me away. I wanted to sit up. I wanted to scream. Instead, I slowed my breathing and stayed still, playing the role they'd already written for me, the helpless old woman who didn't know her own fate was being decided 10 feet away. I don't know, David said, unsure. Dad promised her she'd never go to a home. That was before, Melissa replied smoothly, before things declined. Promises change when reality changes. Reality? Funny how her version of reality always worked in her favor. A few days later, I caught her again. Harold was out. David was gone. I was napping. Melissa was in our bedroom. I watched her open the drawer where we kept important documents, deeds, insurance papers, bank info. She pulled out the house deed and held it up to the window like she was checking a watermark. Then she took out her phone and started taking pictures. My heart went cold. She didn't even rush, didn't check over her shoulder. That's how comfortable she was, how confident. Then her phone rang. Yes, she whispered, the house alone is worth a lot, easily enough to cover long-term care. A pause. I know both names are on it. That's why we need power of attorney first. Power of attorney? I felt like the floor dropped out from under me. The old man trusts David. Once he's convinced she's declining mentally, it'll be easy. She laughed quietly. She won't even know what's happening. I almost exposed myself right then, almost gave everything away, but I didn't, because I realized something terrifying and important all at once. Melissa wasn't reacting to my blindness. She was using it. Every confused moment, every fake concern, every whispered conversation, she was building a story, a paper trail, a trap. And the worst part, she was convincing my family that it was for my own good. That night, as Harold helped me into bed, I felt the weight of exhaustion in his touch. He was breaking, and she was pushing. "Harold," I said softly, "are you tired because of me?" He didn't answer right away. That hesitation told me everything. That's when I realized Melissa wasn't just trying to steal my house. She was trying to steal my mind, my marriage, and my son. And she thought I'd never see it coming.
People like Melissa always think they're the smartest person in the room. That's their biggest weakness. It happened on a Thursday morning. Harold had left early for his doctor's appointment. Same routine, same careful steps, same kiss on my forehead like I might shatter if he skipped it. I waited exactly 10 minutes after the door closed. Then I heard heels. Not rushing, not sneaking, confident. I was standing at the top of the stairs, pretending to feel my way along the wall, when I saw her in Harold's study, holding the house deed. This time she wasn't just photographing it. She was on the phone. "Yes, I have it right here," she whispered, holding the paper up to the light. "The market's insane right now. We're talking serious money." She paced slowly, like a businesswoman closing a deal. "The issue is both names are on it," she said, "but once we get legal authority, that won't matter." Legal authority. I leaned against the wall, my pulse pounding in my ears. "She's declining faster than expected. Memory issues, confusion. Harold's starting to see it too." Another lie, another brick in her fake narrative. I give it a month, 2 max. Once she's in a facility, things move fast. Doctors confirm impairment, paperwork gets signed, assets get managed. Managed. That was her word for stolen. She smiled while she talked. I could see it, that smug little curve of her mouth, like she was already celebrating. "The facility takes the house as collateral," she said. "It's perfect. She gets care, Harold gets relief, and we finally get what we deserve." What we deserve. I felt something snap inside me. Not fear, not sadness, cold clarity. This woman wasn't impulsive. She wasn't panicking. She'd planned this, studied it, executed it step by step while smiling in my face and calling me sweetheart. Then the front door opened. Harold was home early. Melissa froze mid-sentence. She shoved the deed back into the drawer, too fast, too sloppy, left it cracked open. Careless. I moved quicker than I had in months, back to the bedroom, under the covers, eyes closed just as footsteps came down the hall. "Oh, you're back already?" Melissa chirped, fake surprise locked and loaded. "I was just checking on Leona." "Of course you were." "She's restless today, asking strange questions, didn't even seem to know where she was." I wanted to laugh or scream. Instead, I decided to do something dangerous. I leaned into her lie. "Harold," I called out weakly, is this our house?" I felt his heart break in real time. "Yes, sweetheart," he said gently, "you're home." Melissa's eyes lit up. That's when I knew she'd crossed the point of no return, because from that moment on, she thought she'd won. For the rest of the day, I played the part she'd written for me, confused pauses, soft questions, a tremble in my voice. And while she texted someone nonstop, probably reporting progress, I watched everything. The photos she took of our furniture, the way she checked the locks, the quiet excitement she couldn't fully hide. That afternoon, David came by. "How's Mom today?" he asked. Melissa didn't even hesitate. Worse. Just like that. She didn't recognize me at all this morning. David looked wrecked. And that's when I realized something even scarier than Melissa's greed. She wasn't just lying to steal. She was rewriting me while I was still alive. I thought losing my sight was the worst thing that could happen to me. I was wrong. The worst part was watching my own son start to believe I was already gone. And Melissa? She was about to make a move so bold, so reckless, that even she couldn't lie her way out of it. Up until that point, I thought Melissa wanted my house. Then I realized something way worse. She wanted my husband. It happened on Friday evening. I was in the kitchen pretending to struggle with making tea, fumbling cups, moving slow, playing helpless. That's when I heard her voice from the living room. But it wasn't the voice she used with me. It was softer, lower, intimate. "Harold, you look exhausted." My hand froze around the mug. I leaned just enough to see them through the doorway. Melissa was sitting beside him on the couch, too close, her knee almost touching his, her hand resting on his arm like it belonged there. "I'm fine," Harold said, but his voice didn't have much fight in it. "No, you're not," she said gently. "I see what you're carrying. You do everything for Leona. Anyone would be worn down." She leaned closer. "And no one's taking care of you." My stomach turned. She moved behind him, hands sliding onto his shoulders, pressing lightly like she'd done it before. "You're tense," she whispered. "When's the last time someone helped you relax?" I had to grip the counter to stay standing. Harold said, uneasy. "This isn't—" "Shh," she cut in softly. "David won't be home for hours, and Leona's having one of her bad days." Bad days. It's just us. She stepped around in front of him now, sitting on the edge of the coffee table, close enough that I could see her fingers trace his sleeve. "You're still a strong man, Harold," she said. "You deserve companionship, someone who sees you. Sees you." "She doesn't anymore," she added quietly. "Not really." That one hurt, even knowing it was a lie. "When's the last time she touched you?" she asked. "When's the last time someone made you feel wanted?" Her hand slid to his chest. I wanted to walk in and end it right there, but I stayed still because I needed to know how far she'd go. "You're going to spend years watching her decline," Melissa continued, voice like honey laced with poison. "Sacrificing everything. Is that really fair to you?" Silence. Heavy, dangerous silence. "I could give you a different life," she whispered. "We could travel, enjoy things. You wouldn't have to feel trapped." There it was. Not love, not attraction, control. If she had him, she'd have everything. "I've researched the best facilities, places where Leona could get professional care. You could visit without giving up your whole life." I held my breath. For one terrifying second, I thought he might give in. Then Harold spoke. "That's an generous offer," he said slowly. My heart cracked. "But I need time." Melissa smiled. Not relieved, victorious. "Of course," she said, standing and smoothing her skirt. "I'll be right here when you're ready." She leaned down and kissed his cheek. "Too long. I'll take very good care of you." I didn't move until I heard her leave, didn't breathe until Harold went upstairs. That night, he helped me into bed like always, gentle, quiet. "Harold?" I asked softly. "Yes, sweetheart?" "If I wasn't here anymore, what would you do?" He didn't answer right away, and that scared me more than anything Melissa had said. I thought Melissa was trying to erase me. Turns out she was trying to replace me. And the next thing she did, It proved she'd been planning this longer than anyone imagined. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay there beside my husband of 42 years, staring into darkness that wasn't dark anymore, listening to his breathing change every time he shifted. Was he thinking about her? About what she offered? About a life without me? Every doubt I'd been holding back came rushing in at once. 8 months of blindness had taken more than my sight. It had drained him. I could feel it in the way he moved, the way he sighed, the way he hesitated now. And Melissa knew it. Sometime after midnight, Harold started talking in his sleep. "No, can't do that," he murmured. I froze. "Can't do that to Leona." My chest tightened. He turned slightly, voice rough with exhaustion. "She's my wife." I swallowed hard, blinking back tears. For the first time in days, hope flickered. The next morning, something felt different. Harold was quieter than usual, focused, like his mind was locked onto something specific. He kissed my forehead, lingered a second longer than normal, and left the house without explaining where he was going. Melissa arrived later that afternoon, but she wasn't relaxed anymore. She paced, checked her phone, smiled too quickly, spoke too fast. "You okay?" I asked softly, playing my part. "Oh, yes, sweetheart, just busy." Busy people don't look scared. She stepped outside to take a call, and I followed, quietly, to the hallway. "The son is almost convinced. The husband's the problem. He keeps talking about promises." Pause. "No, we can't rush it. If we push too hard, he'll get suspicious." My stomach dropped. "Next month should do it. Once she's in, power of attorney will be easy. He'll be grateful." Grateful for losing me, for losing our life. She hung up and turned around, almost walking straight into me. "Oh," she laughed nervously, "didn't hear you there." I tilted my head. "Where were you going?" "Just stepping out for air." Liar. That evening, Harold came home carrying takeout from my favorite Chinese place. A small thing, but something in his eyes told me this wasn't just dinner. We sat at the kitchen table like we had every Friday during my blindness. The familiar smell, the familiar silence. Then he reached across the table and took my hand. "Leona," he said gently, "there's something I need to tell you." My heart started racing. I braced myself for anything. "You know what Melissa's been doing," he said quietly. I nearly forgot to breathe. "You know about the papers, the lies, the facility, the house?" I turned toward him, careful not to reveal too much. You know?" "I've known for weeks," he said. "I didn't say anything because I needed proof, real proof." "Proof? She's been recording her own downfall," he continued. "She just doesn't know it yet." My hands trembled in his. "There's going to be a confrontation, soon. She thinks she's in control." He squeezed my fingers. "She's not." I wanted to tell him everything right then, that I could see, that I knew about the seduction, that I'd been watching her every move. But I stayed silent, because for the first time since my sight returned, I wasn't fighting alone. I thought I was the only one pretending. Turns out, my husband was playing the same game, and Melissa had no idea the trap she was walking straight into. Melissa didn't wait long. She never does when she thinks she's winning. 2 days later, she announced what she called a family meeting. Said it like she was doing us a favor. Calm voice, clipboard energy, all business. David came over that evening, looking stressed and tired, like someone who'd been carrying guilt that wasn't his. I was in my usual chair by the window, hands folded, eyes unfocused, playing the role one last time. Melissa laid the papers out on the coffee table like she was presenting a solution, not a sentence. "I've done extensive research," she said. "There's a facility called Willowbrook. They specialize in patients with vision loss and cognitive decline." Cognitive decline. She slid a brochure toward Harold. "They have an opening, but we need to act fast." Harold leaned forward, rubbing his temples. "That's very thorough." Melissa smiled. "I wanted to be prepared." Prepared didn't even begin to cover it. She launched into costs, care plans, safety concerns, talking around me, not to me, like I was already gone. David kept glancing at me, torn. "Mom, how do you feel about all this?" I lifted my head slowly. "I just want what's best for everyone." Melissa's eyes lit up. Harold cleared his throat. "Melissa, how did you get such detailed information about our house value, our accounts?" She froze for half a second, barely noticeable, but I saw it. I asked questions," she said quickly. "They explain things." Harold nodded. "They explained our mortgage balance, too?" Silence. David frowned. "Wait, how would they know that?" Melissa's smile tightened. "David, this isn't the time." "It is," Harold said calmly. He stood and walked to the study. When he came back, he was holding a small recorder. "I think we should all listen to this." Melissa's face drained of color. Harold pressed play. Her voice filled the room. "The house alone will cover the first 5 years. There are other assets too, savings, investments. The old man trusts him completely." David's jaw dropped. Another clip played. "By Christmas, the old lady will be tucked away and we can finally live the life we deserve." The room went dead silent. David stared at Melissa like he didn't recognize her. You said you were helping," he whispered. She scrambled to recover. "David, they're twisting this. Are you serious? You were planning to sell my parents' house?" "I was thinking about the future. Someone had to." Harold's voice stayed steady. "You crossed lines, Melissa, legal ones." She laughed, sharp and bitter. "You don't have proof." That's when I stood up. No hesitation, no confusion, no trembling. "I do." Everyone froze. I looked directly at her. "I've been able to see for months." Her mouth fell open. "I saw you go through my jewelry. I saw you photograph our papers. I saw you touch my husband." David gasped. Melissa backed away. "That's impossible. You made one mistake," I said calmly. "You assumed blindness meant weakness." Harold took my hand. "You're done here," David said coldly. Melissa grabbed her purse, eyes blazing with hate. "This isn't over." Harold smiled slightly. "Actually, it is." Melissa thought the meeting would lock me away. Instead, it exposed her. But the real shock? What she did after she left. Melissa didn't go quietly. People like her never do. The door had barely slammed shut before my phone started blowing up. Missed calls, texts, voicemails stacked back to back, like she thought volume could replace logic. David didn't answer a single one. That night, he sat at the kitchen table long after dinner, staring at nothing. The anger had drained out of him, replaced by something heavier. Grief. "I married a stranger," he said quietly. I reached for his hand. No, you married the version she showed you. That mattered. He needed to hear that. The next morning, things escalated. Melissa went nuclear. She contacted a lawyer, claimed elder abuse, said Harold had manipulated me, that my confusion made me unreliable, that the recordings were illegal. Classic move. When control slips, flip the story. Too bad she was already 10 steps behind. By noon, Harold's investigator, Tom, was back in the picture. Turns out Melissa had been sloppy long before she met us. Credit cards opened in other people's names, insurance clients mysteriously misplaced, patterns no one noticed until someone actually looked. And now someone was. By afternoon, Melissa showed up again, uninvited. This time she wasn't calm. No polished smile, no soft voice, just rage barely held together. "You think you've won?" she hissed, standing in our doorway. "I'll take half of everything David owns." David didn't flinch. "Try." Harold stepped forward. "We already reported everything." She went pale. The recordings, the attempted fraud, the identity theft. Her mouth opened, then closed. "You should leave," I said calmly, "before you make this worse." She laughed, but it cracked halfway through. "You're not as helpless as you pretended to be." "No," I said, "I just let you underestimate me." That was the last time she stood in our home. The divorce moved fast after that, shockingly fast. She didn't fight it, because fighting would have meant discovery, court records, charges. Some people don't want justice, they want silence. 6 months later, life felt quieter, cleaner. David moved into a small apartment downtown, close enough for Sunday dinners, far enough to breathe again. Harold and I settled back into our rhythm, morning coffee, evening walks, no pretending, no watching our backs. One afternoon, Harold looked at me and said, "You scared me." I smiled. "You handled it." He said, "I know, but next time, don't keep something like that from me." I nodded. Fair. Sometimes survival makes you quiet, sometimes it makes you strategic. That night, as we sat together watching the sunset, I realized something strange. Losing my sight had shown me more about people than vision ever did. It taught me who whispers, who lies, who protects, and who waits for weakness. Melissa saw blindness. I saw truth. I thought the story was over once she left. I was wrong, because the biggest lesson didn't come from her betrayal. It came from what pretending to be blind taught me about seeing clearly. After Melissa was gone, the house felt different. Not quieter, lighter, like the walls themselves had been holding their breath. For months, I'd lived in a performance, every step measured, every blink controlled. Now I moved freely again, no acting, no pretending, just truth. And yet, something stayed with me. Because once you've watched people believe you're powerless, you don't forget how they treat you in that state. David came over one Sunday afternoon. No agenda, no tension, just him. He sat on the couch scrolling on his phone, then suddenly said, "She used to talk about you like you weren't you anymore." My chest tightened. "She talked about you like a problem to manage," he continued, "not a person." I nodded. That's how people justify doing bad things. They stop seeing the human first. He exhaled slowly. "I keep replaying it, the signs, the things I ignored." "You didn't ignore them," I said gently. "You trusted someone you loved. That's not stupidity, that's humanity." That mattered more than he realized. Harold and I talked more too. Real talks, the kind you'd think you've already had after decades together, until life proves you wrong. "I was scared," he admitted one night, "not of losing you, of failing you." I squeezed his hand. "You didn't." And I meant it. People think strength looks loud, aggressive, confrontational.
Sometimes it looks like patience, observation, timing. Sometimes it looks like waiting until the truth exposes itself. A few weeks later, I donated most of my jewelry, including the pearl necklace Melissa tried on like it was already hers. Funny thing is, I didn't feel sentimental about it anymore. Objects lose power once they stop being tied to fear. I also volunteered at a local support group for people losing their vision. The irony wasn't lost on me. One woman asked, "What's the hardest part?" I didn't even hesitate. People forgetting you're still you. Blindness doesn't erase intelligence. Age doesn't erase worth. Illness doesn't erase dignity. But some people treat it like it does. And some people, like Melissa, exploit it. The experience changed me, made me sharper, more selective, less polite about red flags. Now, when someone talks over me, I interrupt. When someone assumes, I correct. When someone smiles too sweet and asks too many questions, I watch carefully. Because I learned something priceless during those months in the dark. People reveal who they are when they think you can't see them, and once you've seen that version of someone, you never unsee it. Harold asked me once if I regretted pretending. I thought about the fear, the anger, the risk. Then I thought about the truth we uncovered in time. No, I said, because it saved us. I stopped pretending to be blind a long time ago, but the lesson stayed, because sometimes the clearest vision comes when the lights are off. If there's one thing I learned from all of this, one rule burned into me for life, it's this: never let politeness silence your instincts. I ignored small discomforts for months because I didn't want to seem rude, didn't want to cause tension, didn't want to look paranoid. And Melissa counted on that. People like her thrive on hesitation. They move fastest when everyone else is trying to keep the peace. The truth is, the moment someone benefits from you being weak, confused, or quiet, that's the moment you should start paying attention. Not panicking, not accusing, just watching. Because real danger doesn't announce itself. It blends in, smiles, helps, brings brochures and solutions, and concern wrapped in pretty words. After everything settled, I asked Harold something I hadn't dared ask before. What made you start recording her? He didn't answer right away. Because she never asked what you wanted, he said finally. She talked about you like a project. That hit hard. Caregivers ask, manipulators decide. There's a difference. David learned that too. He's different now, more careful about who he lets close, less impressed by charm, more focused on consistency. He told me once, she talked a lot about the future, but she never talked about us. That's another red flag people miss. If someone's plans always center themselves, believe them. As for me, my vision is fully back, but even if it hadn't been, I would have still found my footing. Because strength isn't physical, it's awareness. I still walk slower sometimes, still pause before stairs, still double-check things. But now I also trust myself more. I don't shrink to make others comfortable anymore. I don't ignore the feeling that says, something's off. And I don't hand over my life, my home, my marriage, my dignity to someone who hasn't earned it. If you're reading this and something in your life feels wrong, quietly wrong, listen to that. You don't need proof yet. You don't need permission. You don't need to explain yourself. Just don't look away. Because sometimes the most dangerous people aren't strangers. They're the ones sitting right next to you, waiting for you to doubt yourself. And if my story proves anything, it's this:
You don't have to be loud to be powerful. You don't have to see everything to understand enough, and you're never as helpless as someone wants you to believe. I thought blindness took something from me. Turns out, it gave me clarity. And once you have that, no one can take it away. If this story hit you in the gut, don't stay silent. Like, subscribe, and comment if you believe betrayal hurts most when it comes from inside the family. Your support helps more stories like this get told.